Welcome. It's Debrup on Air. I'm your host Debrup Laha, and this is The International Lens, where we dive into the real life stories of international students in the US. I have been in your shoes, earning both my bachelor's and master's degrees here, and now I'm working full time in the States. This podcast series is for you, whether you're already studying in the US or just planning to. Every week, I'll bring you conversations with students from all over the world, sharing their journeys, challenges, and triumphs. My mission? It's to give you the insights and inspirations you need as you carve your own path in the US. So, whether you're dreaming of studying here or already on your journey, this podcast is your ultimate guide. Tune in and let's make your American adventure one to remember. Coming from a South Asian background, we have always been introduced to fields like engineering, science, medicine, and lately to law as well. But today, we are going to be talking about a very unique and interesting field. And our special guest today is Ms. Joyeeta Das, who's doing her master's in comparative religion at University of Washington in Seattle. So, Joyeeta, thank you very much for taking your time today.
Thank you for having me here.
Likewise. And how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm in the East Coast, so I'm probably 3 hours ahead of you. And
Right.
it's pretty cold here.
Oh,
So before we get started, tell us a little bit about Seattle and the evergreen state of Washington, because we hear a lot about it in social media. So tell us a little bit about it.
right. Yeah. Seattle is a wonderful place, really. Specifically coming from India, like I have never been abroad before. So, the temperature difference is a thing for me. Like India is typically so tropical.
Mhm.
And so I was always worried about how am I going to adjust with like this cold temperature. And I'm really happy that this is my first time visiting the US and it is Seattle, which is not as harsh as the eastern, parts of USA. But then yeah, well, winters here were, I wouldn't say very harsh, but then the rainy season and everything that kind of glums up the climate a bit. Other than that, like right now is a very pleasant time here. Like it's I think starting to be spring and we are expecting cherry blossoms at UW, like my university, and it's going to be like so pretty. Yeah.
Does it snow there at all?
It did. It snowed for like I think a couple of days.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
We probably had a couple of days of snow only last week itself, and you're
Oh,
the whole season having a couple of days of snow. So that's great. I mean, so students should keep that in mind when they're choosing their university, like being adjust and completely getting adjusted to the climatic conditions is definitely important.
yes.
Great. Thanks for that introduction. So coming to your academic background, could you walk us through a little bit about what you did in the past and how you managed to get into this program here?
Right. So currently I am a top scholar fellow and a Demoto Web Endowed Fellow at UW, and I'm doing comparative religion at the Jackson School of International Studies here. And before joining UW, I worked for a brief period of time. I worked as an international English teacher. It was a remote job, but then I taught curricular English to students from Australia, UK, and Dubai. That's what I did just before joining UW. And prior to that, I got a master's in English literature from the English and Foreign Languages University, which is in Hyderabad.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also have my bachelor's in English language and literature from Adamas University in Kolkata.
Okay, makes sense. And coming to your work experience, you said you taught for a little bit, and was it for like school students or was it college students?
It was typically middle school and high school students from the regions I mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. And coming to your current program, what was the reason you decided to choose a second master's degree and deviating from English to comparative religion?
Right. That's a very interesting question. Talking about, pursuing a second master's, well, that is primarily to expand my knowledge on the religions of my interest. That's one thing. And talking about the transition, from English literature to comparative religion. Well, English literature may not be as non-religious as we commonly perceive it to be. There are, in fact, English literature can be treated as a cultural manifestation of Christians or the English. Right, so it has got a pretty religious angle added to it, which a lot of people might not be aware of. And that actually, when I was doing my master's in English literature back in Hyderabad, one of my professors really helped me understand how English is actually the religious connotation added to English literature. And then he motivated me to find out what about the literature associated with my religion, and, other religions. And is literature even a term that we use in Hinduism, let's say?
Okay.
Or what is the word for literature? Yeah. So all of that really got me interested into looking into like religious literature and eventually religion.
Okay. And
Yeah.
currently, are you focusing mostly on Hinduism, or what exactly is your like research area?
Right. So currently I am focusing on Hinduism, and I think if I must choose a minor religion as well, I think I would choose Buddhism.
Okay. So are
Yeah.
you doing like a comparative study between Hinduism and Buddhism, or how is it like?
Right. I'm not sure if my curriculum really requires me to compare two religions, like the name suggests, comparative religion. But if I'm required to, I would definitely, try and compare the menstrual customs of Buddhism and Hinduism. Because growing up as a woman, I have come across a lot of rules and prohibitions that women must abide by in various parts of India when they're menstruating. And so is the case for Buddhism. So yeah, if I'm supposed to compare, I'd like to bring my research in this domain.
Okay, it's an interesting thing you said about menstruation in Hinduism and in India, because I believe that's also practiced in some parts of India even to this day. Although we are in a way more progressive world and we are in the 21st century, but this
Mhm.
is still done in many parts of northern India, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. And so coming to your coursework, what are some of the courseworks that you are taking? And was that pre-decided before you came, or did you figure this coursework out after you arrived here?
Right. So courseworks are not pre-decided. They depend on what courses are offered during each quarter by like various faculties. And talking about courseworks that I'm currently pursuing, I'm doing Sanskrit here. Like I'm learning Sanskrit, yeah, because most Hindu religious scriptures and everything are in Sanskrit. So it is important to have that linguistic knowledge so that you can actually interpret what the texts had to say about, let's say, women, and
Mm-hmm.
you not blindly follow the already available interpretations. That's why I'm doing Sanskrit. And so this quarter, I am focusing on Buddhism. Last quarter was mostly on Hinduism. So this quarter, I have a course on Gandharan Buddhism. Like there's this place, Gandhar, from
Yeah,
where Buddhism kind of really expanded. So yeah, I'm focusing on that. And I have another course this quarter, which is on research design, which helps me understand how to really work through my plans and kind of really put them so that they can be formalized as a research project.
makes sense. And
Yeah,
since you mentioned your university has a quarter system, so how
yeah.
many quarters do you need to, like, how many courses do you need to take per quarter, and how many quarters does the curriculum consist of?
Right. So I think the curriculum consists of not more than 6 to 8 quarters.
Okay.
Like considering a 2-year program. If you want to like cut your program short, you could do that as well. But I would like to continue it for 2 years, so 6 to 8 quarters. and um, I'm sorry, what was the other question?
How many courses are you taking per quarter?
Oh, right, yes. I have a fellowship which really kind of prohibits me from taking more than, I think, 18 credits
Okay.
every quarter. Yeah. And given like each course is of 5 credits, I typically do like 3 courses, so like 15 credits every quarter.
So technically, you're doing three courses every quarter.
That's
And just as a comparative analysis, so since I'm coming from a STEM background, we had to take at least 9 credits each semester, and each course was of 3 credits. So in order
oh,
to graduate, we had to take 30 credits in a master's degree program. So
mhm.
for your program, how many credits do you finally need to take to graduate?
Right. That should be 38 credits. Yeah.
Interesting. And you mentioned that you were in a fellowship, right?
Yes,
So for students who are not in a fellowship, they need to pay for all these 38 credits, correct?
that is right. Yeah.
Interesting. It must be very expensive. So we'll get into those in a little bit. But again,
Mhm.
coming to your coursework, you
Mhm.
did your bachelor's and master's in India, and then you're doing your master's here again. What do you
Right.
think about the course, like the teaching pattern here? Is it vastly different or is it similar to what it was in India?
Right, yeah. And before answering this, I would definitely love to kind of avoid generalizing
Mm-hmm.
because not all institutions in India teach the same way. So, for example, in my bachelor's, we did not have the freedom of choosing the coursework so much. It was already pre-decided for us. However, in my master's, like in Hyderabad, I had the freedom of like choosing and like curating the program I want to pursue, which is what is also happening in the US.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of a mixture of what kind of experienced in India, like a preset curriculum, and then also you choose your own curriculum. Yeah, like the cafeteria system.
Makes sense. So here you're finding that flexibility, right, with respect to coursework choosing. And do you think it has been a little difficult to switch from like the Indian education pattern to the US education system?
Right. So it has not been very difficult for me, I would say, thanks to my professors back in India. And like they were very instrumental in kind of shaping my academic skills as well as training me to face this very, very diverse international, kind of space. And it's definitely there are certain aspects of it which are different. But then, yeah, they are. I mean, I'm kind of really flexible and open to new challenges. So, yeah, it's been pretty fun for me.
Makes sense. And since you mentioned your professors did play a part in helping you transition to the program here,
Mhm.
were there any other situations in which you faced some difficulties and there were any seniors who were there to guide you?
Of course, yeah, I always had you. You are, I think, one of the best seniors I ever had. And other than that, so this is what I did when I was applying to various universities. The first thing I do is I kind of look up their current graduate students, their current PhD students, and reach out to them to get like a real ground reality of what's happening and how the program is. And most of them were like really kind and really helpful to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing we as international students always try to do is to give back to the society and help the next generation of students who are coming to the US because it's a vast transition, I would say, because I
Mhm.
came to the US about 12 or 13 years ago and things were a lot different than what it is now. But I
Yeah.
still feel the education system is a little different and people do need that extra help. So it's always good to have somebody or some seniors who are there to guide you.
Hmm.
And on the same topic, when you were applying to universities, how many schools did you apply to and what were your other admits?
Right. So I applied to, I think, 4 to 5 schools.
Okay.
like UW was definitely one of my top priorities, given the alignation of my research interests with my professors. And other than that, I also applied to the University of Chicago
Okay.
and the University of Columbia. And these were also some of my other priorities. However, I was in touch with one of the professors at the University of Columbia. However, I couldn't really formulate or like concretize my research interests that well. So I think that is one of the reasons why I'm not in Colombia. And I'm really grateful that UW really gave me this breakthrough to be a part of international academia without really facing in any international space before.
Makes sense. And when you say University of Columbia, is it Columbia University in the city of New York or which?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So University of Chicago, Columbia, and UW. So these are top three schools in any field, I would say, where international students apply.
Mhm.
And you decided to go with UW. So was there any other specific reason you wanted to get the program at UW itself?
Right, yeah. And like my graduate program advisor at UW had a major role to play in this case
Mhm.
because when I was applying for masters, I was kind of confused that should I do South Asia studies or should I do religious studies?
Okay.
Because Hinduism kind of comes into both. It is also a part of South Asia as well as it is a religion, right? So I reached out to these schools and Jesus, like my advisor here,
Mhm.
he really helped me like very clearly understand what the differences would be in if I joined the South Asia program and if I joined comparative religion. And he also helped me connect with a lot of professors who I was previously not in touch with, and that really clarified things. And I kind of got to know that, okay, people in Washington are so resourceful, so open, and so helpful. I would definitely go there if I had a chance.
Right. So yeah, people are definitely helpful. And since you spoke about South Asian studies, I remember when I was doing my bachelor's at SUNY Buffalo in New York, we
Mhm.
also had a program in like the South Asian Studies department. And we
Oh,
used to see a lot of students and professors were there who are coming from an English background. So now that I'm speaking with you, I can relate that you did your bachelor's and master's in English, and then you decided to do your master's again in comparative religion. There is not a like there can be a smooth transition there,
yeah.
definitely. Thank you very much for walking us through the program because it's new for me and I just was very excited to learn about this program from you.
Sure, yeah.
And you mentioned at the beginning of the episode that you received a scholar, you were on a fellowship, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So could you walk us through the fellowship program and what were the prerequisites for it?
Right. So this fellowship is like a departmental thing. It is not any external fellowship. So it did not require any, separate application process. It was the same application that I submitted to the admissions committee. And looking at my academic records and my previous projects, the committee very generously decided me to award with this fellowship. And I also have that's the one I received initially, which is called the Top Scholar Fellowship. And I have another one which I received later on. It is the Demoto Web Endowed Fellowship.
Okay.
And that also oh no, sorry, that had an application process. Like I had to kind of specify what work I want to do and how I want to utilize the funds which would be provided to me if I kind of got the fellowship. So yeah, other than that, I don't think. Oh, like my department chair mentioned that he would use my academic records, which were already submitted at the time of the admission, kind of letter. So I
Yeah.
did not have to submit them separately. Yeah.
Makes sense. And was that scholarship like on your professional degree or like your previous grades solely, or do you think your work experience also helped you to some extent to get that fellowship?
Yeah, I would say it was definitely like academics has a very important role to play in kind of helping you secure certain resources for yourself. also the work experience, it really helps people understand that, okay, this person just did not study. They also took some time to really develop their professional skills, which should be like a cherry on cake. And,
Yep.
I think all of them combined together really makes you unique and exceptional from others. Yeah.
Makes sense. And what are some of the other scholarships that you can suggest for future students who are applying for any Master of Arts programs in different US universities? I mean, the external scholarships.
Right. So, well, I did not have any external scholarships in mind when I was applying. However, what some of my professors suggested was the Fulbright scholarship.
Yep.
Yeah, there might be certain conditions which may not be favorable for all. So I would request anybody who is planning on, kind of applying for the Fulbright scholarship to really carefully look at all the criterias they have and then, kind of go on with the application.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's a very good way to summarize because even I am aware of there is Fulbright and there is a couple of other scholarships from India, which mostly STEM students take. But one of the criterias out there is after the completion of your studies, you need to go back to your home country and work there for at least 2 or 3 years. So that was one of the prereqs I remember.
That's right, yeah.
Yep. And coming to your program, so after the completion of your studies, what do you think are the job prospects who's doing a master's or let's say even a PhD in comparative religion? Is it mostly in academia or do you think there are industrial roles as well?
Well, I am not so aware of the industrial roles. I can definitely talk about academia because that is where I see myself. So I kind of have like not a lot of information, but like a brief insight on what it could be like. So yeah, talking about academia, people studying comparative religion, depending on their traditions of interest, they can choose to kind of go to religious studies departments, or they could also focus on area studies department. For example, if I choose to continue with Hinduism, I might also look for job opportunities in the South Asia Studies department besides religious studies departments. Similarly, people focusing on, let's say, Middle Eastern religions might also find their place in Middle Eastern Studies department. So there are a lot of scopes in religious studies as well as in various area studies program.
Right. Okay. And for these roles, do you think a master's is enough or does one require to have a PhD as well?
Well, that depends on how well they are trained. If people, I mean, most academic roles would kind of require you to have a PhD. It
Hmm.
is always specified that, okay, PhD candidates only or something like that. But if it is not specified and if a person believes that they have enough training, I think they can go forward with that.
Makes sense. And this might be a little too early to ask, but is your long-term goal, or at least after the completion of your master's, do you want to pursue a PhD?
Yes, I think I would want to, continue with a PhD because I want to be in academia, and
Mhm.
PhD is a fantastic kind of way to explore your particular research interest in depth, which you do not get to explore so much during your master's because you just have 2 years to do your coursework.
Right.
So the projects that you have may not be as developed, but PhD really gives you that opportunity.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess since you're doing your coursework already in your master's, when you start your PhD, I believe your credits from your master's will already get transferred and take care of your coursework credits for the PhD program, and you can directly start your research work once you start that program.
That's right. That's right. So if I continue in the same school, like in the Department of, I think, the International Studies at UW, some of my course credits will be taken into account for a PhD. However, if I choose to kind of transfer to any other schools for a PhD program, they may not be, I mean, the credits may not be counted, but the knowledge and training I'm receiving here will definitely help me, proceed faster than people who do not have a background in this.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what are your short-term goals for this summer?
Oh, right, the summer. Oh, summer is so exciting in Seattle, like people who have already lived here were saying that they have beautiful sunsets over here. but I'm not sure if I'll be in Seattle during the summer because I'm planning on this language program in India,
Okay.
uh, in the American Institute of Indian Studies in
Okay.
Pune. And
Okay.
this my language, like my language of focus would be Sanskrit, and they're doing this 8-week intensive summer program to help students kind of deep dive into the language outside coursework. And I'm really excited about this. I've also heard that they have like these plays and visits to like cultural places of Sanskritic importance. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. Although I'm yet to receive a decision from them. Hopefully, yeah, I make it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And firstly, all the best for that program. I hope you get selected for that. And besides, since you mentioned about this program you're doing in India, but it's related to your field of studies, are
Yeah.
you planning to get credits for that and use the CPT program?
I am not sure if I can get credits from that to my and kind of link it with my course. But yeah, I'm rooting on, the knowledge that I receive from there again. That
Mhm.
would definitely be very helpful. But then, yeah, as you mentioned, I could use it for my CPD. I'm definitely going to take a look at that.
Yep, because that will help you to graduate maybe a semester, or sorry, not a semester, but a quarter earlier if possible. So yeah,
Hmm,
definitely look into that.
sure.
And apart from the summer internship or the summer program that you're doing, any conferences are you planning to attend in the US once you're back?
Yeah, actually, there is this conference called SACPAN,
Okay.
which is the South Asia Conference in the Pacific Northwest. And I also, although I'm not planning to present in the conference, I'm looking forward to attending it because number one, it's happening in UW this year, which is what I'm really proud of. And number two, I'm sure, because this is my first time formally studying religion. This conference is going to help me come up with research ideas or presentation ideas, which maybe I could use subsequently.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you're not presenting, even if you're going there and just learning from others, it's definitely going to play some part in your career as you move forward. Because when I was a student, I also went to a couple of like research conferences where I wasn't presenting, but the variety or the diverse research program that or the papers that were published there and the poster presentations that were happening in those conferences definitely did help me, which in some way or the other when I was pursuing my undergraduate research program as well, like in my university. So definitely it does help to some extent is what I can suggest you.
Mhm.
And apart from this, do you have any passion projects? Tell me, how is life in UW? Like, how is the campus like?
Yeah, the campus, is very scenic. We've got this place called the Quad, which is like a big, kind of section with little fields, and there are like a lot of trees around, and they look beautiful in fall, with all the fall colors. In spring with the cherry blossoms. Yeah, it's a beautiful place, and we have this I'm forgetting the name. I think Drumheller Fountain, which also gives you a view of the majestic Rainier Mountain on a sunny day. And oh my God, that's a sight to look at. And other than that, we've got our the Suzello and Allen libraries, which are so beautiful that I see at least two wedding photography shoots every day over there. They're so scenic.
In the university campus.
Yes, in the university campus, inside the library where people are studying, I see people kind of doing their wedding photography. Yeah.
This is something we probably never imagined in India. Like people are studying in the library and at the same time there's a wedding photo shoot happening.
Yeah.
And it must be a picture's view, like the way you described it, I can imagine already. I mean,
Mhm.
probably that's why Washington is the evergreen state, like
Yeah.
lush green trees. I mean, it's a beautiful
Mhm.
sight.
Yeah.
And aside from studies and work, you're pretty great at that from what I can understand. What is your passion projects? Like do you do any separate on-campus job or anything?
Right. Yeah. I got my actually I started my campus job like this quarter. like I started in January, and I work as a student assistant at Pagliacci, which is one of the pizza areas on campus. Although it does not kind of really relate to my area of studies or anything, the reason why I chose to be in that job, because I am very, very introverted. And when I'm working in the dining, you have to interact with people, you have to interact with your customers and stuff. So kind of I'm really trying to ease myself on those interaction and really trying to kind of come out of my introvertedness with the help of this job.
I can definitely say that you're very well spoken. Really seem like you're introvert, but yeah, I mean, if you're trying to utilize that to help yourself grow more, then nothing gets better than that.
Yeah.
And how's the pizza like, if I may ask? Is the pizza really good? Because we in New York, we feel the New York style pizza is the best, but I mean, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I am not a very good, pizza eater, honestly. I am very Indian and I love my Indian foods and stuff. But yeah, given, what Pagliacci really presents, I love their original cheese pizza. That's wonderful. And I also like their mushroom, the double mushroom, yeah.
Okay. I mean, it sounds delicious, but I'll still probably consider the New York style pizza to be a little bit better, just being a little biased. But jokes apart, so since we are coming towards the end of this episode, I wanted to ask your opinion. Like, do you have any suggestions for incoming international students who are specifically coming for a program in with a Master of Arts degree? Because as we know, most of the students who are in the US doing their master's or PhD are mostly in STEM field. So what
Mhm.
is something that you can suggest to them?
Right. So one of the things I would suggest is I believe people like non-STEM students who are coming to the US, they often have this notion that you need to have something really groundbreaking in your CV when you're applying to universities, like some really good publication, some really good research work or something. Well, that if you have that, that's great. But even if they don't, that's not a problem. People here are really eager to help you learn and help you acquire kind of skills. So they are not expecting you to already have everything, already know everything in the world. Uh, that's like very, very absurd expectation. So it's okay if you're not as well skilled or as well trained. Do not self disqualify yourself. Reach out to the universities of your interests. Most of them are really responsive and very helpful. And really try to understand your interests and find out people who kind of really resonate with your interest. I think that would be a great way to, find universities you would love to apply to, and that would also be a time saver. Instead of making like thousands of applications, you get to really narrow down to 4 to 5 universities.
Right. I mean, and application fees are also very expensive these days. Like, because I was speaking with a few students and they were saying the application fee range from 150 to $200 as well in some schools. So definitely a good point you mentioned here. And
Mhm.
aside from that, somebody who's coming specifically to study comparative religion, from
Mhm.
your experience, do you think they should get some niche skills before they start their program in the US?
Well, if they can relate to whatever they were doing previously, how that is related to religion in the broader sense or any religious tradition in particular, I think that would like really serve the purpose because what people are looking for is if you have a clear understanding of what you're doing. Right? They don't expect you to know everything, but they just need to know that, okay, this person knows what they're doing and they are not wasting anybody's time or resources.
And at the same time, if they have any confusion while they're performing their research work, or if they're confused about what courses to take, I guess they can always reach out to their seniors. One of them is probably you. And then
Oh,
at the same time, the faculties as well. And I believe they'll be definitely be helpful to the students before they start their program, correct?
That is right. Yeah. Although, the thing is, life here is so busy,
Yep.
people may not be available to respond as quickly, but I'm sure if they kind of be patient and consistent with their reaching out thing, I'm sure they're going to receive responses from people.
Yep. And on the same note, I guess it's important when students are reaching out to professors, they should formalize it in an email in a professional way and
That's
not
right.
make any grammatical errors or things like that. Because I've often seen students who are trying to reach out to a professor in, let's say, University X, let's
Mhm.
say MIT, for example, and they mistakenly write in the email, I was looking at the website of Virginia Tech. That is probably a very bad thing. So,
That's right.
okay. Well, thanks for your time. I mean, I learned a few things about you and your program, and probably when we have our next episode with you, we are going to see how you progressed. And I'll definitely be keen to learn about your program in India and what you learned from it.
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate, your efforts to kind of put the series together. And you've always been so helpful to everybody I know. And yeah, I'm so glad you're doing this selfless work. I'm really proud of it.
Thanks for the kind words. I mean, my motto has always been to just help students and just trying to do that. And I realized that it's been, what, 7 years, 8 years since I finished my master's. So I
Mm.
thought it's time that the current international students who are studying in the current curriculum are probably the best resources for future students. So that's why I started this podcast series to make students like yourself as valuable resources for prospective students.
Of course, yeah. And if anybody wants to reach out to me in specific, I'm available on social media and on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to kind of follow your footsteps and help other people.
Great. Thank you very much for your time again, Joyeeta.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. Got questions or suggestions? Drop me an email at debrouponair@gmail.com. Catch you in the next episode. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.